My son's English teacher told the whole class he was a cheater and a thief, but went crazy after losing her job. Thomas had been a strong reader since he was small. By 7th grade, he was finishing thick novels in 2 or 3 days, then asking questions at dinner that made my wife and me feel slow. So when he came home one Thursday in October, sat down at the table and would not look at me, I knew something was wrong. He pulled a paper out of his backpack, a 5-page essay on the outsiders, neatly typed, with a big red F at the top. Under it, in the same red pen, "You did not write this. I will not grade stolen work." He told me very quietly that she had handed the papers back, walked to his desk, held his up in the air, and told the class, "This one is not his work. I will not have a thief in my class." Then she dropped it on his desk and walked back to the front. He sat there 40 more minutes while kids whispered. 2 laughed. One, a boy he used to eat lunch with, would not look at him the rest of the day. I asked if he had copied anything. He said no. I asked him to sit at the kitchen table and write me a brand new paragraph about the same book right then. He did it in 20 minutes, and it was sharper than the paragraph I would have written. The next morning, I called the school and asked for a meeting with the teacher and the principal together. Eliana walked into Nico's office with her arms already crossed. She used the word frankly like a hammer. Frankly, she had been teaching 30 years. Frankly, she knew the difference between a child's writing and an adult's. Frankly, my son had stolen the essay and she did not appreciate being questioned. I asked where she thought he had stolen it from. She said it did not matter. I asked if she had run it through any copy-checking tools. She said she did not need a tool to know a thief when she saw one. Then she said the sentence that decided everything. She looked Nico in the eye and said, "The boy is a cheater. He stole that essay. I am willing to put my name on that. I am willing to put it in writing. That is my professional judgment." Nico asked if she was sure. She said she was. He slid a piece of paper across the desk and asked her to write it down and sign it. She did. She signed it twice. She underlined her own signature. I thanked her, took a copy of the signed statement on the way out, and went home. That afternoon, I pulled up the district policy on disputed grades. Any cheating accusation could be sent to a panel of 3 department teachers who would test the student under direct watch. 2 outcomes only. Either he was found cheating, the grade stood, discipline followed, or he was found not cheating, the grade was thrown out, a formal note went into the teacher's file, and she had to issue a written apology in front of the same class where the accusation was made. No third option, no soft landing. She had walked into a meeting and signed her name to an accusation that could only end one of 2 ways, and one of those ways ended her career a little bit at a time. I filed the dispute that afternoon. Friday, Tomas came home and told me she had pulled him into the hallway between classes. She had crouched down next to him, smiling, and asked if he was ready to tell the truth before things got worse on Monday. He told her no. She told him that was fine because she had already spent 2 lunch periods with the 3 panel teachers, and they all agreed with her before reading a single word. Then she told him she had found the website he stole from, and she would be holding the printout when he walked into that room. When Thomas told me that, something in me went very quiet. Not angry, quiet. The kind of quiet where you stop hoping the system works and start making sure it does. She thought talking to those 3 teachers over lunch meant the panel was hers, but she forgot one thing. She had signed her name, twice, and on Monday, that signature was going to cost her everything. I called Nico the next morning. He went quiet. If she is approaching the student directly about a pending review, that is a conduct issue separate from the grade dispute. I asked if the panel was still fair. He paused longer than I wanted. I picked the panel before she had a chance to talk to them, but she has been eating lunch with 2 of the 3. I cannot swap panel members without documented grounds. That night, Rosalie and I sat at the kitchen table going through every essay Tomas had written since 4th grade, book reports, reading journals, a creative writing project from 6th grade where his teacher had written "wow" in the margin, conference notes from his 5th grade teacher calling him one of the strongest readers she had seen in 15 years. We put it all in order. There was no jump, a slow, steady line going up year after year because the kid read like breathing. Rosalie labeled the front of the folder with his name and the dates and looked at me across the table. If they look at this and still say he cheated, then there is something wrong with every teacher in that building. Saturday morning, I read the full 22-page district policy. On page 14, in a section about appeals, I found something. If either party believed the panel's decision was affected by bias, they could request the student's test writing be sent to an outside evaluator chosen by the district office, not the school. Someone with no connection to the building. Their decision would be final and would replace the panel's ruling entirely. I wrote the clause number down and put it in the folder. Eliana did not know about this. She had spent her week whispering in the workroom and cornering a kid in a hallway. She thought the panel was the only game in town. But now I had 2 paths. If the panel did the right thing, fine. If they did not, I had a backup she could not touch, could not influence, and could not see coming. That evening, Tomas came downstairs and sat at the other end of the couch. "Dad, am I going to have to write in front of those teachers on Monday?" I said yes. He nodded slowly. What if they already decided I'm a cheater before I even pick up the pen? Before I could answer, Rosalie walked in from the kitchen and sat down close enough that her shoulder touched his. "Then you write something so good they cannot pretend they did not see it." He nodded once and went back upstairs. Rosalie looked at me after he was gone. "You need to find another way, in case the panel does not go our way." She was right. Monday morning, I was at the school at 7:30. Nico walked me to the conference room. 3 teachers were already at the table, lined up like judges, 2 women and 1 man. Eliana stood by the window, holding a manila folder against her chest with both arms, like it was the only thing keeping her upright. Thomas came in a few steps after me. The second he stepped through the door, her face changed. That same tight little smile from the first meeting, the one that was not really a smile but more like a door closing. I put my hand on the back of his neck for just a second and pulled out a chair for him across from the panel. Nico explained the process. 45 minutes. New prompt on the outsiders. By hand. No books. No phone. No notes. The panel would compare it to the disputed essay. He was about 2 sentences from finishing when Eliana stepped away from the window. "Before we start, I have something the panel needs to see." She set her folder on the table and slid 3 printed pages across. I found a website, a student essay database. One of the essays posted there is nearly identical to what Thomas turned in. The proof is right here. She said it like she was landing a plane. The panel leaned forward. The man in the middle picked up a page. I reached across and picked up the 3rd page, the one nobody had grabbed yet. The first line referenced a character named Ralph. The second line talked about a conch shell. The third line mentioned boys stranded on an island. This essay was about Lord of the Flies, not the outsiders. The structure was a 5-paragraph essay, which meant it looked like Thomas's the way every middle school essay in the country looks like every other one, but the quotes were from a different book. The characters were different. The argument was about a different theme. I set the page down and slid it back across to her. This essay is about a different book. The room got very still. The woman on the left picked up the page I had slid back and looked up at Eliana with an expression I can only describe as confused. Eliana did not flinch. The structure is stolen. The ideas are stolen. The words are different, but the thinking is the same. Nico put both hands flat on the table. The panel should proceed with the writing test as planned. We can evaluate the printout afterward. She turned to him fast. The test is unnecessary. I have provided proof. Nico did not raise his voice. The policy requires the test. We are doing the test. He pulled a single sheet from his folder and placed it face down in front of Tomas. Tomas flipped it over, read it twice, picked up the pen, and started writing. He wrote for 38 minutes straight, did not stop, did not look up, did not ask a question. Two of the panel teachers leaned back after the first 10 minutes like they had already seen enough. The third, the one Eliana had been eating lunch with all week, kept glancing at her, then back at the paper. Eliana stood by the window the whole time, arms crossed, watching him like she was waiting for him to crack. He did not crack. He filled 4 pages front and back, put the pen down, and slid it to the center of the table. The first teacher read carefully, set it down, slid it to the second, who read it twice. The third picked it up, read it through, then picked up the original disputed essay, and held the two side by side, eyes moving back and forth between them for a long time. The first teacher spoke. The voice is consistent. The vocabulary, the sentence structure, the way he builds an argument, these were written by the same person. The second nodded. This is strong writing for any grade level, but it is clearly a student's voice. An adult would not make some of these choices. These are choices a kid who reads a lot would make. He turned and looked directly at Eliana when he said it. She stepped forward from the window. You are telling me a 12-year-old wrote both of these? This is not what children produce. The first teacher did not flinch. Some children do. That is why we test them. It was the simplest possible answer, and it landed like a door closing. Eliana's voice rose. I have been doing this almost 30 years. I do not need a 45-minute test to know what I am looking at. Nobody picked it up. Nobody nodded. Then the third teacher spoke. The one she had eaten lunch with on Tuesday and Wednesday and Thursday. She did not look at Eliana. She looked down at the 2 essays. I read both. I compared them to the printout you brought in. Your printout is about a different book, Eliana, and these 2 essays match each other. I cannot support the accusation. The room went completely still. Eliana stared at her. You told me on Thursday you agreed with me. The third teacher met her eyes. I told you I would look at the evidence. I looked at it. Eliana turned fast, almost spinning, and pointed at me. This is what happens when you let parents run the school. This whole panel is a setup. Nico told her to sit down. She did not. I signed my name to that accusation because I was right. I am still right. That boy did not write that essay, and all of you are too afraid to say it because his father is sitting right there. Her face had gone red from the neck up. Thomas was not looking at anything. His hands had moved from the table down to his knees, pressed flat against his legs like he was holding himself in place. I reached over and put my hand on his shoulder. He did not look up, but I felt it drop a little under my palm. Unanimous. All 3 ruled in his favor. Nico signed a form and looked at Eliana. Per district policy, the F is removed from his record. A formal note goes in your file, and you are required to issue a written apology to Tomas in front of the same class where you made the accusation. She stared at him. I will not apologize. The policy does not ask for your opinion. You signed your name to a written accusation. The panel found it baseless. The consequences are automatic. The apology was scheduled for Wednesday. She had built her own trap and walked into it twice. Tuesday afternoon, my phone buzzed at work. Nico, we have a problem. Eliana had filed a formal complaint with the district office that morning. She was claiming the panel was biased, that I had pressured the school into a predetermined outcome. She was requesting the Wednesday apology be suspended pending district level review. The district had told Nico to pause everything. I asked about the outside evaluator clause. He was quiet a moment. If you file for that now, it actually works in your favor. It shows you are not afraid of additional review, and it takes the decision completely out of the school's hands. I filed the request from my desk that afternoon. Eliana wanted more review. Fine. She was going to get more review, but not the kind she was hoping for. Not the kind where she could eat lunch with the reviewer and whisper her way into the right answer. That evening, Tomas came home and sat across from me at the kitchen table. He picked at the edge with his fingernail and said, something happened at lunch. I waited. Jake came up to me in the cafeteria. Jake, the boy who used to eat lunch with him every day. The boy who would not even look at him after Eliana held up his paper. He said he heard I had to write the whole thing again in front of teachers and they said it was real. He said he should not have stopped talking to me. Thomas told me this without smiling. His face did not change. Then he looked at me and said, it does not fix it, Dad. He just believed whoever was louder. He said it like it was the simplest thing in the world, and I guess it was. Jake had not looked at the evidence. He had heard a teacher say the word cheater and decided that was enough. Tomas was not angry. He had figured out at 12 what some people never figure out, that being right does not mean anyone will listen to you if someone else is louder. That night, Rosalie's friend Dream called. Dream worked in the district's HR department. Rosalie came back into the kitchen with her face different, focused. Dream just told me something. Eliana has had 2 prior complaints from other parents. Both times a student was accused of cheating. Both times the accusation was not supported. The district did not act because she never put it in writing before. This time she signed her name. 3 students, 3 families. The only difference was that this time she had been arrogant enough to leave a trail. The first 2 parents had not pushed hard enough, or maybe the system had not made her sign anything. But this time she had. She had underlined her own signature like she was daring someone to challenge her. That was the thing that was going to end this. Not my folder, not the policy clause, not the outside evaluator. The thing that was going to bring Eliana down was Eliana. She had done this to herself over and over, and this time she had signed her name to it. Rosalie stopped in the middle of wiping the counter. Have you noticed anything about Tomas besides all this? I waited. He has not touched a book in almost 2 weeks. I stood there with the water running. The kid who had been finishing thick novels in 2 or 3 days since he was 10. She was right. Even if we won every step, even if the evaluator confirmed what the panel found, even if Eliana stood in front of that class and read an apology out loud, she had already taken something. He had learned that the thing he was best at, the thing that came as easy as breathing, anything could be used against him. He had responded the only way a 12-year-old knows how. He stopped. He just stopped. I did not say anything to Rosalie. I did not need to. She could see it on my face. She picked the rag back up and finished wiping the counter, and we did not talk about it again that night, but it sat in the room with us like a third person. The outside evaluator was a retired English teacher with no connection to the school. She was given both essays with no names attached and no context beyond the prompt and the grade level. 2 days later, she submitted her findings. Nico read me the summary over the phone. Both writing samples demonstrate consistent voice, vocabulary patterns, syntactic habits, and analytical reasoning. The disputed essay and the supervised test essay were written by the same student. There is no evidence of plagiarism, copying, or outside authorship. There was a note at the bottom. The evaluator had added that she rarely saw this level of reading comprehension in a 7th grader, and the student should be commended, not punished. That was the lock clicking shut. I knew what the evaluator was going to find. I knew it the same way I knew Thomas wrote that essay, the same way I knew it the night he sat at the kitchen table and wrote me a paragraph about the outsiders while I made dinner, and it came out sharper than anything I could have done. But hearing it from someone with no reason to take our side, someone who looked at the words on the page and nothing else, that was different. Friday morning, I drove to the school for what I hoped would be the last time. The table was the same, the chairs were the same, but the energy had changed. A man I had never seen before sat at the head of the table, the district coordinator. Eliana was not at the table. She was sitting against the wall behind him, hands folded in her lap, staring at the space behind his head. The coordinator opened the meeting without small talk. The panel had ruled unanimously. The outside evaluator had confirmed. Her printed evidence had been about a different book. Her bias complaint had no supporting evidence. Then he looked at the last sheet and said her file now contained 3 separate cheating accusations against students, none substantiated. 3. The word just sat there. He turned to her. The district was issuing a formal reprimand for unprofessional conduct, the public accusation in front of students, the hallway intimidation of a minor during a pending review, the submission of irrelevant evidence presented as proof. The apology would happen Monday as originally required. Then he paused. Given the pattern of unsubstantiated accusations and the severity of her conduct in this case, the district was recommending termination proceedings. Her head turned slowly toward him. You are firing me because a parent complained? Her voice was flat. He did not hesitate. We are firing you because you publicly humiliated a child, fabricated evidence, intimidated a student, and did it with a pattern that shows this was not a mistake. It was a habit. He said the word habit the way you say the name of a disease, not with anger, but with the understanding that it had been there for a long time and had done damage every time it showed up. She stared at him a long time, then stood up slowly, like her body was heavier than it had been 5 minutes ago, and turned to me. Not to Nico, not to the coordinator, to me. Her voice was almost a whisper. I hope you are proud of yourself. I gave 30 years to this school, and you are taking that away because your son writes pretty sentences. She said it like she believed it. I looked at her from my chair. You took something from my son too. You made him afraid to read. You made him think the thing he was best at was something to be ashamed of. You did it in front of his friends. You did it on purpose. And then you tried to do it again in a hallway when nobody was watching. I did not take your career. You signed it away, twice, and you underlined it. She did not answer. She picked up her bag, walked past the coordinator, past Nico, past me, and out the door. She did not close it behind her. Nobody followed her. Monday morning, I sat in the back of Tomas's classroom in a chair the substitute had set up near the door. Tomas was 3rd row from the front, 2nd desk from the window, hands flat on his desk, looking at the front of the room. The door opened and Eliana walked in holding a single sheet of paper. She did not look at the class. She did not look at Tomas. She did not look at me. She walked to the front, stood behind the desk, and started reading. Her voice was flat and mechanical, like a machine reading words off a screen. She was wrong to accuse Tomas without evidence. She was wrong to say it in front of the class. She was wrong to call him a cheater and a thief. She read every word on that page without stopping, without changing her tone, without once lifting her eyes from the paper. The room was dead silent. Every kid in there was watching her. Some had their mouths slightly open. Some were looking at Tomas. Tomas watched her read every single word, and his face did not change. When she finished, she folded the paper in half, set it on the desk, and walked out. She did not say goodbye. She did not look back. She just walked through the door and was gone. A substitute took over her classes for the rest of the year. She did not come back. That night, Thomas came home at his usual time, dropped his backpack by the couch, and sat at the kitchen table. I was cutting vegetables. Rosalie was at the counter going through the mail. For a few minutes, it was just the normal sounds of our kitchen, the knife on the cutting board, the rustle of envelopes, the hum of the fridge. Then I heard a zipper. I looked over and Thomas had reached into his backpack and unzipped the main pocket. He pulled out a book, a thick one, the kind he used to finish in 2 days and spend the next week thinking about. He set it on the table, opened it to the first page, and started reading the way he used to, like it was as natural as breathing. He did not say anything. He did not make an announcement. He just opened the book and started reading like he had never stopped. Rosalie caught my eye across the kitchen. Neither of us said a word.